Here we go. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. So many great content creators and broadcasters out there covering the Niners on YouTube. That's why we're always so appreciative that you come and hang out with us. Coming up, following the NFL Draft, a new Niners 53-man roster projection. There are some difficult cuts that we're going to have to make here on the show. First, if you think the Niners still have an elite roster, I know people are still sad about the Super Bowl. It's a difficult one to get over. I feel ya. But this is a really good team that has a chance to make noise and get back to the Super Bowl during the 2024 campaign. So if you think this team is still elite, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon like the video. If not, I want you to comment why and share your thoughts behind that. Niners roster projection. We begin at the quarterback position. Brock Purdy, of course, going to make this team entering a big 2024. And if he plays like he did in 2023, he's going to break the bank, especially for him, considering he's made less than $1 million in his first 2 years in the National Football League. And now, since he's been playing well, setting himself up for a bag. But a lot of the advertisements are coming his way. Getting a lot of endorsements. Good for him. Backup quarterback, I think it's going to be Josh Dobbs beating out Brandon Allen. The Niners gave Dobbs some pretty good guaranteed money, and I thought it was a smart move. Sam Darnold got $10 million from the Minnesota Vikings. You were paying Josh Dobbs a fraction of that, less than $3 million in guaranteed money, and he's shown that in a pinch, he can step up, he can play well. Aerospace engineering major at Tennessee, very smart. He can master the playbook in a quick amount of time, has some good mobility. And then Brandon Allen, who's back on a one-year deal, very well respected inside that quarterback room. The Niners kept 3 quarterbacks on their opening 53-man roster last year. I think that holds firm going into 2024. The running back position. It has become very, very interesting here. After the drafting of Isaac Guerendo, you picked up Cody Schrader as the UDFA. Last year, the Niners had 4 or 5 running backs on the opening 53. This is also a unique roster construction because you have a fullback in the mix too. And because the Niners are deeper elsewhere, we have to make some difficult decisions. So, Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerendo, Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk. They make the team here. And by the way, those numbers toward the right side of your screen, identifying the 53 men that are going to be a part of this roster. And we're going to have a surprise cut. Elijah Mitchell, he's going to get cut. Productive player, has a lot of talent, but he's been injured every year that he's been in the NFL very consistently. And I think that the injuries have worn on him a little bit, where last year he didn't have the same quickness. And this wide receiver room, cornerback room, defensively, this entire roster in its entirety is stacked to the point where you have to cut some players who are going to be able to latch on with other teams. Because speaking of the wide receiver room, let's take a look at it here. Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Jauan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, they make the team. Because Aiyuk, Deebo, Jennings, your top 3 wide receivers, we know what they can bring to the field. They're excellent players. You drafted Ricky Pearsall, 31st overall. Would be a disaster, obviously, if he didn't make this team. It's completely unrealistic that he gets cut. You took Jacob Cowing in the 4th round. This is a player who's 5'8", 5'9", 4'3", 40-yard dash, and consistently wins out of the slot. A great gadget wide receiver for Kyle Shanahan to use. And then Ronnie Bell, he played well in the preseason last year. I think he has some upside. He has some return experience, although he didn't fare well in those reps a year ago. And then I'm keeping Chris Conley because he's one of the only players on this list who's going to be able to give you consistent coverage special team snaps. So I'm going with 7 wide receivers total here. And the notable cuts, Danny Gray, he hasn't shown me anything yet other than being able to run fast. Trent Taylor, he's strictly a punt returner. You're not going to really use him as a wide receiver within this offense. And so you keep an extra wide receiver and you cut Elijah Mitchell. Now to the tight end spot. You can certainly make the debate that you only keep 3 here. Cam Latu has shown me nothing. Has to be able to prove that he can catch the football and stay healthy. Brayden Willis is a little bit shorter, maybe more of an H-back. Mason Pline is a UDFA who the Niners have been high on. A little bit of a surprise here. I have him making this team. Really, outside of George Kittle, we don't know. The backup tight end spot simply is not good enough at this juncture of the offseason, with plenty of time to fulfill that. And because of that, I would not rule out a free agent addition at some point, like a Robert Tonyan, or a trade, because you need to get a better backup tight end behind George Kittle after you lost Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner, and you try to take away Brock Wright from the Lions, but they match the offer sheet. Now let's pivot to the offensive line. Your starters, most likely, Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Jon Feliciano, and Colton McKivitz. Some people are making the argument here that Jon Feliciano should start at center. Dominick Punick, who you took out of Kansas, should start at right guard. And then you could either go Colton McKivitz or Spencer Burford at right tackle. Here's my issue with trying out Burford at right tackle. He hasn't even shown to me that he can play guard at the NFL level. And when he did fill in last preseason, I believe, at the tackle spot, he really struggled. So the offensive line, still a question mark on that center to right side. The backups here that I have making the team, Jaylon Moore, he's the backup to Trent Williams. Dominick Punick, he could play multiple positions along the offensive line, played tackle at Kansas, but shorter arms and wingspan, might slot to be an inside offensive lineman. Drake Nugent is a UDFA who, the more I study him, the more I like him. 15 starts, first team all Big Ten member last year from Michigan, a team that won the national championship. Not a lot of losses on tape. Very comfortable getting out in space and is athletic. You took Jarrett Kingston, who I think has some upside, very experienced at the college level. And then Spencer Burford, the last offensive lineman to make the team. The surprise cuts here, Nick Zakelj and Ben Bartch. You drafted Nick Zakelj. He could play center. He could play guard. Ben Bartch, some people in the organization are high on him, but you also addressed the interior offensive line in the NFL draft this year. You could use some practice squad spots on some of these players here down below me, or some of the players that I have making the squad. Don't forget to subscribe to us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report for year-round and daily coverage on this team. We're approaching 133,000 subscribers, so lock us in and don't miss our content. Ricky Pearsall jerseys. They are available right now thanks to our friends at Fanatics. He is going to wear the number 14 as a Rook. You can find them at chatsports.com/Pearsall. That link is available down in the show notes. It's in the comment section of this video, attached to the pinned comment, and on the community tab here on the YouTube channel. Offensive side of the football is down. Now we go to the defensive side. Going to be some good competitions here along the defensive line. Starters across the board, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, and Leonard Floyd. Yetur Gross-Matos, the new Arden Key, and Charles Omenihu, who's going to be able to play defensive tackle, defensive end, kind of in that Cleveland Furrow role as well. The backups, Kevin Givens. Niners brought him back. They're a little bit thin at defensive tackle. Jordan Elliott, a good depth piece, comes over in free agency from the Cleveland Browns. Drake Jackson, you got to show something to me. And then the Niners activated Robert Beal Jr. a little bit later in the year. We go with 9 total defensive linemen to make the team. On the hot seat, Drake Jackson. The Niners are no longer tied to him being a second-round pick. This is year 3. He's still a young player. He's flashed, has a lot of ability. It's time to be consistent and stay healthy. If you don't, he could be a surprise cut. So too could Kalia Davis, who has shown minimal flashes of ability, but has also been injured going back to when he tore his ACL his final year at UCF. Linebacker position. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, shoo-ins to make this team. If Dre Greenlaw starts the year on PUP, the Niners could go 4 linebackers here realistically. And then if an injury happens, you elevate somebody from the practice squad. But Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, I think Devondre Campbell going to make this team as well. A veteran who, as recently as 2021, was a first-team All-Pro. And we're in a sticky spot here with D. Winters and Jalen Graham. They played good ball in the preseason last year. They're young developmental linebackers who are fast and quick from sideline to sideline. And I like what the outlook is for their futures. So you practice squad Tatum Bethune, who you took in the 7th round out of Florida State, and then the surprise cut, a good special teamer, but is a little bit of a liability as a coverage linebacker, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Ezekiel Turner, also a surprise cut. The Niners have really liked what they've seen from him when he played for the Arizona Cardinals as a special teamer, spot linebacker duty, a very good special teams player who could easily make this team. This is where I started to have a very, very difficult time. And it's not like the Niners have a bunch of top shelf talent at the cornerback spot, but they put an emphasis on adding a lot of depth to this position this offseason. I'm going with 4 corners to make this team as of right now. Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, your 2nd-round pick, and then Isaac Yiadom, who analytically was a very solid corner in coverage last year after he had to fill in for Marshawn Lattimore. But there are other Niners who you're going to have to make very, very difficult decisions on, especially with players who you have drafted very, very recently. Ambry Thomas, a 3rd-round pick back in 2021. Chase Lucas, good special teams player from the Detroit Lions. Rock Ya-Sin, injuries have kept him back from being a consistent contributor, but he was a 2nd-round pick. Samuel Womack, Darrell Luter Jr., those are players that you drafted in the last couple of years who also have some ability. But do you side with more known commodities in an Isaac Yiadom? And do you cut bait with some of those younger players knowing that you're kind of deep as far as depth goes at that cornerback spot and they're going to be able to latch on with other teams? And then you have safeties. Talanoa Hufanga, Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, and George Odom. The Niners are not going to cut a player like George Odom because they just gave him a nice little contract with some money attached to it because he's one of the better special teams aces in the NFL. Hufanga and Jair Brown are the 2 best safeties on your team, and then you drafted Malik Mustafa as a player who has a lot of ability as well. So 4 safeties here, that too, a difficult position to try to choose from when you pair that with the cornerback spot because you need 3 open roster spots for your specialists. Tabor Pepper, Mitch Wishnowsky, and Jake Moody. Pepper the long snapper, Wishnowsky the punter, Jake Moody the kicker. And as far as returners go, I'm curious to see what the Niners do on that front. Like, I don't think that Trent Taylor is good enough when you compare him to a Ricky Pearsall who has a lot of wiggle. But at that kick returner spot, who takes the place of Ray McLeod there and as punt returner? Going to be a good camp battle as well. Grade the Niners roster, Madden scale, 1 to 100, top to bottom, 1 being awful, 100 being the best in the league. Let me know.